Today's objective is going to be dividing decimals. But before we start dividing, we're going to review multiplication of decimals, right? You remember that? We did that on Friday, so before we jump into dividing, let's review some of the procedures that we do when multiplying decimals. So we're going to do one of the problems from our workbook, and this is a pretty easy one. All right. So it says that a piece of plywood is 1 and 2,700 centimeters thick. Centimeters, right? Find the thickness of a pile of 9 pieces of plywood to the nearest tenth. That means that we're going to have to round it, right? Of a centimeter. Estimate to check if your answer is reasonable. So we have 2 steps to do here. Actually 3. We need to multiply. We need to estimate. And then we have to round, right?
Yeah.
I always like to estimate first because that way I have an idea of what my answer would be, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem with decimals, that you put the decimal point in the wrong place and you're going to have either a really small number or a really bigger number. Okay, so if I say that 127 rounded to about $1, right? I'm sorry, about 1 centimeter, then 9 times 1 equals 9. So I'm looking at about 9 centimeters. If I say that I'm going to round it to 150, if I round it to about 1.5, then I'm looking at about 9 times 1.5. I'm estimating to be around 13. So anything between 9 and 13 should be my answer, but closer to 9. All right, well, let's see. Let's work it out. So I'm going to write this down here. The first thing that I'm going to ask myself is, how many decimals do I have? 1 decimal? 2. We have 2 decimals. The 2 and the 7, right? That's 2 decimals, right? So what does that mean? That means that at the end, when I'm done, when I get my product, I should have 2 decimals, right? That's the rule for multiplication. You end up with the same amount of numbers of decimals that you started with, right? Okay, so right now we're not going to worry about the decimal point, right? We're not going to worry about it. We're just going to do our multiplication, and at the end, we're going to worry about the decimal point. All right. So let's figure this out. 9 times 7.
63.
63. I'm going to put the 3 here and just carry the 6. 9 times 2.
18.
And 6. 24. And 9 times 1 is 9 and 2. 11. Now, if I don't put any decimal point here, then my answer will be 1,143, and we know that that cannot be possible, right? So I need to be careful. If I put the decimal point here, that means that 1.7 times 9 will be 1 and 143,000, right? So that could not be the answer either. So what I do is I count how many I have. I have 1, 2. So I'm going to move the decimal point 2 times. So my answer is 11 and 43 hundredths, right? So am I close to these? Yeah, I'm in between, right? Couldn't be 1,000, couldn't be 1.1, it could be 113. So it's 11, so I'm going to take that. And next step that I need to do is round it to the nearest tenth, right? Okay, so I'm going to find my tenth, which is the 4. I'm going to look at its neighbor, which is a 3. So I know that is smaller than 4. So I need to round down. That means my tenth is going to stay the same, and everything else is going to turn into a 0. All right, so I have 11 4, 0, right? So that means that I'm going to have a width of 11 and 40 centimeters. You remember how to do all that? Should we try another one? Alright. We're not going to use a problem, we just simply do an operation. Alright? And what I need you to do is I need you to do the operation as I do mine alone. Right? So you work it out and I work it out. And we do something a little more challenging. Alright, something more precise. Something a little longer. And now I know for a fact, and we're gonna round these to the nearest hundred. We're gonna round these to the nearest hundred. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna estimate. Right? When I estimate, I round in my head. So I'm gonna say that 32 and 634,000 is gonna be just 30. 30, right? And how much is 30 times 5?
150.
150, right? So my estimation that is gonna be over around 150, slightly over than 150, right? So it's not gonna be 1.5, it's not gonna be 15, and it's not gonna be 1,500. It's going to be around 150, right?
Yes.
All right, so let's go ahead and start the multiplication. Oh, but before we do that, how many decimals?
3.
3. 1, 2, 3. That means that at the end I have to have
3 decimals.
3 decimals, right? Ready to multiply? All right, start multiplying on your own. Some people already finished. Ah, you see? Where are we? I see people putting the decimal point already and they have not finished their operation. We put the decimal point at the very end, right? Alright. Okay, well, let's work this thing out. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 3 is 15, and 2 is 17. 5 times 6 is 30, and 1 is 31. 5 times 2 is 10, and 3 is 13. And 5 times 3, wait, did I make a mistake?
No.
5 times 3 is 15, and 1 is 16. So now I have 163,170, right? So we need to be extremely careful where our decimal point is. Tell your neighbor where your decimal point should be.
After the 3. After the 3. Yes. Actually, start the 4.
And did you explain why?
Since at first
Why it should be after the 3? Because
since at first they
I
started
walked
with
around and I
3.
saw 16. I saw 16 and I saw 1,000. Right? Yes, believe it or not, that's what I saw. Okay, so what did your partner say, Leah?
After the 3.
Why after the 3? Why?
Because there's 3 decimals.
Because we have 3 decimals, right?
Yes.
All right. Now that's and we were gonna round to the nearest 100, right?
Yes.
So we find 100, which is 7. We look at its neighbor, is 0, so it just stays like that, right? Good job, guys. So it's 163 and 1700. All right, so are you ready to move on to division? All right, division very easy. Okay, so let's clear this up. And do we even have a division problem here? Let me scroll up really quick to see if we have a division problem. Okay. These are multiplication. Okay, here's one. Okay, so we are going to divide. But before we get started with the problem, let's review something. Who can tell me what is this? A fraction, right? And Alexander, what does 5 of 8 mean? What does it mean for you? All right. It means that I have 5 pieces or 5 parts of 8, right? 5 out of 8, right? Now, do you remember how to turn this into a decimal? Stop, turn, and talk to your neighbor. What do you know about turning a fraction into a decimal?
First you have to do 5 divided by, 8 divided by 5 and just add the point and then the 0 and then multiply. And your answer would be 11 is 10. And if you did it, your answer would be, okay, whatever, I give up.
Okay.
First you have to divide.
Carlos, what did your partner say? Okay, that sounds really good. What about Henry? What did your partner say? Okay, anybody wants to share? Okay, what?
Divide the numerator by the denominator.
Beautiful, that is excellent. We're going to divide, you remember Tibo? Anybody remember that? Okay, top inside, bottom outside. Okay, in case you don't remember. All right. So what Chelsea said, we're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. You remember that?
Yes.
Ah. Okay, perfect. So we know what to do, right?
Yes.
So Miranda, what do I need to do? Beautiful, good job. Did everybody hear that?
Yes.
All right, since 8 does not fit into 5, right? So we know that it's going to be a decimal, right? Good. So what did you say, Miranda?
That since it keeps going to 5, you have every 0 on top, and then when you next to the 5, you have to every 0.
Beautiful, good job. I hope everybody heard that. I'm going to repeat. So 8 does not fit into 5, so I am going to put a decimal because it's going to be less than 1.
Do you know where is Stanley Aviles?
He's not ours.
He said it this guy.
Okay. So we're going, since it's less than 1, right? We're going to put a 0 point, and then we can add as many zeros as I want, right? Okay, so now, can I do it now? Yeah, so How many times does 8 fit into 50?
6.
6 times, right? So 6 times 8 is
48.
48. Excellent. Now I'm going to subtract. I get 2. Bring down the next number. 0. How many times does 8 fit into 20? 2 times, right? So how much is 8 times 2? 16. Subtract. We can still pull out another 0 and 5. All right. So you see, you know how to do it. You just forgot how to do it. All right. So 5/8 is the same as 625,000, right? All right. Well, guess what? Dividing decimals is the same thing. Dividing decimals by a whole number is exactly the same thing. So let's go ahead and try this problem. All right. So it says that a plumber has a copper pipe 0.9 meter long. So it's almost a meter, right? He cuts the pipe into 4 equal pieces, right? Find the length of each piece in meters, right? In meters. Round your answer to the nearest tenth of a meter. So we have 3 parts here. We need to divide 0.9 meters into 4 pieces. Then we need to find out how much is each in meters, not in centimeters, in meters. And we're going to round our answer to the nearest tenth of a meter. Sounds like a lot of work, but guess what? It's not. All right. So let's get started. 0.9. Oh, sorry. All right. It's kind of going to look like that, right? So you know it's going to be pretty easy. All right. So just like when we multiply, we don't worry about the decimal point. Let's look at this. Does 4 fit into less than 1? No, right? No. So guess what? I'm going to cancel this one here, and I'm going to put this one here. Now I'm going to add a 0 here, right? Or as many as I want. All right, now ask yourself, does 4 fit into 9? Yes. 1 time, right? 4 times. 2. I'm sorry, 2 times. Who said 1? Confused me. 4 times 2 is 8. 8, right? So 4 times 2 is 8. Subtract. I get a 1. Bring down another 0.
Got it.
Let's try a 2 again. 4 times 2 is 8. And it looks to me that, what? 4 times 5 is 20. Alright, so let's see what happened.